What did you learn from dealing with resentment? Or how have you grown
Oh,
from dealing with resentment?
stop being afraid of it and stop judging it. I feel like that's a huge starting point for your entire emotional complex as a human being.
Agreed.
Not judging it, but inquiring about it.
Yeah, like just being with it. Like you have a feeling. Okay, can you let this go? Don't forget about the thoughts. Thoughts will fuck with you, but like but the feeling with it, like okay, it's just like I'm feeling resentful, I'm feeling angry towards that person. You know, you can get into some of the thoughts if you want or whatever, but like focus on, can I let this feeling go? What is happening in my body right now? Can I let that go? You know, yes or no. Even if it's no, okay, can I still let that go? What other resentment is at play here? And then just being with it and just let it move through you. Again, like these are states and these are waves that were not meant to hold on to. They're meant to flow through, and you keep going.
Good point.
So like, just stop judging it, because judgment adds another complex to it. Just
I love that.
Let it be and let it move.
I love it. Let it move. Let it go through you. I think it's the key there. I think for me, and I think maybe you brought it up, was how it's like a reflection of something that's actually going on with yourself, and there's a deeper kind of meaning there. That like the resentment you have for somebody else could be connected to something that you're feeling for yourself. Yeah.
Do you have something, Jen?
Lesson? Well, yeah, there were a lot. I think resentment, for me, it shows up very, very rarely in my life now. But the one time in recent memory that it showed up was because of this pattern, like this established pattern that it subconsciously reminded me of, and I didn't realize, I wasn't conscious of why I was being resentful until I really sat down and reflected on it, and where does this actually come from, and peeling back the layers and layers, right? It wasn't this scenario, because like you said, if someone else did the same thing, wouldn't even blink at it.
Yeah.
But because of the pattern we had in our relationship, right, when that thing happened again, when that behavior was shown again, that triggered me. It was a chance, it was an opportunity for me to finally explore that pretty intense emotional response, right? What the hell does that come from? Jesus, I didn't know I still had that in me. It's concerning, right? Because as much as we've worked on ourselves, you know, when something like that happens, it's surprising, and it just spurs me into reflection and trying to figure it out and get to the root of it. And that's one of the things that I've learned about resentment. It's related, is just having a group like ours where we can work through this stuff together is so key. It's so key.
So that's your lesson?
That's a big lesson.
Yeah. I'm just trying to hone in on the big lesson.
Yeah. Just resentment has many layers to it, right? It's pretty complex, and there's a lot of opportunity there for growth anytime it shows up in your life.
Yeah, great point. Yeah.
And that's my lesson when it comes to resentment. I realized that, like, after passing through it and realizing that it's not a feeling that I love or want to keep. Like, it's something that I want to get rid of as soon as possible. So to me, I realized that there's a gift in every feeling of resentment for you to be able to grow. Because once I kind of realized, and then I kind of went past it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a gift, because now I'm so much better because I actually went through it. That was the biggest thing for me. So yeah, that's my lesson.
I love that.
It's an opportunity to grow.
That's great.
Exactly. You gotta sit down and put the work in, though.
Oh yes, you gotta humble yourself.
Which we've done.
Be
Like,
like,
Done tons of
I mean, I was thinking about that also. Like, you know, just the fact that like we should all celebrate each other almost for showing up every single week and like holding space for each other. Like,
so one last thing that I think would be cool to present to the viewers is, what would be a tip that you would give to somebody who's dealing with resentment right now?
For someone that's working through resentment, my tip for them would be to take some time for themselves and start trying to figure it out. Start trying to figure out where it comes from. What do I resent about this situation? Or where is the resentment coming from? I'll literally write a question like that on the top of my journal page and then just start writing, right? I think it's important to be, one of the things that shifted it for me was just bringing into my conscious mind a lot of the offending incidents when I was hurt, when I was in pain, or when I was left alone, and making that connection, right? This is why I resent this person, right? There was so much of that. So it wasn't even just one thing. There were so many incidents where I just felt like I had no one to depend on, right? And that person should have been there for me, but they weren't. And it's all these things. And so I was bringing that all into memory. So that's what I needed for that situation of resentment.
Bring it back up and to let it go.
Well, to start thinking about it, like how far back does it go?
Right.
What was the first memory of it? Right? Because you weren't resentful back then. You were hurt back then. Resentment shows up now.
Yes, that's a good point.
Right?
Yeah, that's what I was asking you before when you were saying you were resentful. If you were like actually, when you were a kid, resentful in that moment. And you said, yeah, you said you were.
I don't know if it's possible. Because I think resentment it's similar.
Maybe you didn't know it was resentment at the
It's
time.
like an angry leftover.
Yeah.
Something you hold on to when it becomes
It's a
resentment.
byproduct of something
It
else.
feels like it's an accumulation of too much hurt. You've been hurt to a certain level and then you start resenting. Because when you're a kid, you just hurt. And then you hurt again, and you kind of accumulate all these hurt.
Yeah.
And all those negative emotions are attributed to that person.
So
and you start resenting.
Or pattern in
Yeah,
general.
so on that note, I feel like it's also, again, going back to reflection of yourself, like you're resenting somebody else for maybe things that you didn't do for yourself, and you're using that as kind of a scapegoat. So I don't have all these things, so now I'm resentful to that person, right? And I'm using them as kind of my way of like excusing myself for not showing up.
Could be, but as a kid though.
No, I'm just talking more from my
Okay.
own experience.
Yeah.
For me, it's the awareness that has been the major step to letting go of the
Okay.
resentment. The awareness of the hurt, of where it came from.
Okay, so are you good?
Sure.
No, because I want to get through these tips. I think it's
Sure.
So
I have a tangent that I want to bring up with you, actually.
So for someone that's going through resentment, my tip would be to sit down with the person and have an open conversation about it, and really hone in on like explain to them why you're feeling resentful for them, and try to get an understanding of where that other person is coming from and why they showed up in that way, or why they kind of like created that experience or whatever you went through with that person. But having that open dialogue with them and letting them know that you're actually feeling that way, I think can alleviate a lot of resentment, and also kind of amend that relationship you have with that person. I wanted to do that in the camera, but I forgot.
Okay. I think for me, my tip would be look into what your expectations are. Because I felt for me the resentment was based on expectation. What are your expectations? And realize that you're trying to control somebody else's behavior and feelings, which does not make any sense. So why do you do that, and what are you missing that makes you want to control that to be able to create an environment that you want to have? So look at your expectation and kind of realize they're unrealistic. You can't expect somebody to behave a certain way because you have no control over them. You barely have control over your own behavior. How are you going to expect to control somebody else? And the solution is not them, the solution is you. So how can you get the feeling that you want to have? By doing some change for yourself as opposed to expecting somebody else to do it. All you're seeing is a mirror. Like whatever they're not doing is what you're not doing yourself to be able to get that feeling. So look into that. That's what I learned.
Yeah.
Mine is kind of like a fusion of what you guys said, when like looking into the expectation for sure, and being with the feeling, whether it's like journaling or whatever it takes for you to get into your conscious mind and into the forefront. I think the biggest problem is like, again, the unacknowledged feeling. So you're feeling resentful. cool. Step one, give yourself space for that. Like allow that to be without judgment, as to the best of your ability. Like just give space for the feeling, and then like start looking at it. It's like, well, what expectations or what moments of hurt or what led to this like conditioned response or pattern that's showing up in the way of that looks like resentment. But step one is just giving space for it, and then just being with what comes up or what you view as being attached to that, or where that again those hurts came from and those expectations came from, you know. And then I feel like once you're with that, then I would go, you know, more high-minded and like see the innocence to the best of your ability, right? Because then you're allowed to have more compassion for where that person came from, what their decision making was, or whatever else. You know, and if you look at yourself, but even with regards to, you know, seeing the innocence, like, do you feel like you've done the best that you can given your lot in life? You know, most people do, right? Like, generally speaking. So, like, maybe as difficult as it is to hear or to look at, but could they, the 1% chance that they did the best that they could no matter, and we don't have to blame them, we don't have to make them wrong, we could just be with the feeling and accept that fact that you have the feeling, and then mitigate the expectations, and then do your best to see the innocence of that.
I would almost add to that, give me an idea for another tip. Once you've done all of that, what is the gift that coming out of that resentment? So once you, and that might be able to help you get through it. So once you get rid of that resentment, what is the gift that's on the other side of it? How do you become a better person?
Cool.